Zach's Jambalaya, take one.
Hey everybody, I'm Zach Brooks. I am the General Manager of Smorgasburg here in Los Angeles, and I am extremely excited to be here today to be cooking my award-winning recipe. No, championship-winning. What do you call when you win an episode of Recipe Club? If you haven't watched the Potluck Recipe Club Expert, you should pause this right now. Go watch it, and you'll see possibly my greatest cooking triumph of all time, my only cooking triumph. I run Smorgasburg here, which is actually a neighbor of the Major Domo Studios here at the Row. We're here every Sunday with like 60 amazing food vendors. It's free to get in, super fun. Cooking is, I like cooking. I cook a lot for my family. And I was excited about the Potluck episode because I got to cook possibly my favorite recipe of all time from this amazing cookbook, Real Cajun, by Donald Link, who is a legend in New Orleans restaurant cooking. And he has a recipe for jambalaya, which has long been one of my absolute favorite things to cook. It takes some time, but it's not hard. I just love like the whole process, and I feel like it's a perfect potluck dish, which if you watch the episode, you saw all my reasons for that. And I love making it. I love talking about how to make it because I don't know. It's just, well, I guess you're going to find out right now because I'm going to do it. So the first thing is you roast a chicken. That's the first thing. I asked, for the sake of time, I asked Major Domo to roast me a chicken, and I'm thinking to myself, like, Dave Chang, Chris Ying, you're going to roast me some amazing chicken. I show up, and this is what you guys have given me. That doesn't seem right. Is Dave here? Can I complain?
Nope.
I mean, listen, it is, for the sake of time, I feel like this is totally acceptable, and it's not gonna change the flavor of the dish. But roasting my own chicken is one of the things I love about this, because you roast the chicken, and that's the beginning. And it doesn't have to be seasoned. It doesn't, it doesn't really matter, because what you do is, after you get the roasted chicken, you actually pick it. You pick the chicken clean, like you take all the chicken off, because we're gonna put that in the jambalaya later. And then you use the bones and all the leftovers in the stock that you're gonna make to cook the jambalaya. So I've already got a pot boiling here, and this is, I don't know if this is fun for you to watch, but it's fun for me to do. I enjoy picking the chicken clean and then using all the bones to make the stock. I also didn't eat lunch, which is kind of a mistake, I think, but it's fine. There'll be a little less chicken in the recipe. That'll be fine, right?
Yeah, it'll be fine. So Zach, while you're picking, can you briefly explain how you would do your basic roast chicken? Since we don't get to see you do that, what are the straight basics?
So again, because you're picking the chicken clean, because you're using the meat in the jambalaya, which is going to have a ton of flavors and spices, and then all the bones are going into a stock, you don't really need to do it. It doesn't matter. You don't have to get the skin crispy. You don't have to have a ton of seasonings, because the seasoning is all going to get added later. And so it really doesn't matter. I buy a chicken, I stick it in the oven for an hour, and that's it. My anger at Dave and Chris is probably misdirected. It's more just selfish, because I wanted them to roast me a chicken, and I thought that'd be fun to brag about. I feel like this piece can just go in. I'm trying to break it up into smaller pieces so that it all fits in the pot. They tell you to put 10 cups in the pot. I don't know. I did it. I put 10 cups in the pot because I'm a recipe follower. I'm a rule follower. And then you're going to boil it down, and you should be left with 6 cups. So I got my 10 cups of water. It's already starting to boil. And then I'm gonna just throw, how we'll be left with a decent amount of chicken. I think we'll be good. These wings, I feel like, these could be eaten or thrown in to the pot. Again, like none of this stuff is hard. It's a little time consuming, but I also feel like it's what makes, it's what makes this dish so enjoyable to make. And I'm actually gonna throw a skin in there. And that'll make the stock a little more unctuous. Is that the right word? Unctuous? Is that it?
Unctuous.
It'll make it a little fattier. The stock's only gonna cook for an hour, so it's not like, we're not looking to make like a soup or anything. It's just gonna be the stock that the jambalaya, that cooks the rice and the jambalaya. All right. One for here. Yeah, I think we're good. And I'm just gonna stick all of this in here. And then find a pot for my chicken and set that aside. All right. Set this aside for later. And should actually probably shred this. You could do it now or you could do it later. But eventually we'll shred this. Oh, we're already boiling. So I'm gonna turn this down. So there's a bunch of veggies that go into the jambalaya. So we're not actually gonna put these in, but all the scraps of the veggies that you end up cooking up. So you've got like 2 bell peppers that you're gonna dice for the jambalaya. But all the parts that you don't use, you can throw into this stock and it just adds extra flavor. Fun story about Dave. One year I was at South by Southwest and Dave was doing a panel, and during the panel, this was like in front of thousands of people and I was in the audience, and he said something like, he was talking about the original Momofuku sambar, where when they first opened, they made these, it was almost like a chipotle, like a Korean chipotle, and they made these Korean burritos, which I thought were like the most delicious. So he brought it up, and he was like, the original sambar made Korean burritos, and I was like, woo! Like, I was the only person. And he was like, I don't know who that was, but they get to eat at sambar for free for life. Yeah. And the next day, I saw him, and I said, I got bad news for you. I was the person. I still have not gotten my card that gives me free sambar for life. All right. And then this is gonna cook for an hour. And then we're actually gonna put one of these onions in. Keep this one looks bigger. And we'll quarter this. And throw this one in. All right. And then in the time this cooks, it's supposed to reduce from 10 cups to 6 cups. All right, so while that boils, I am now going to dice all of the veggies that are gonna go in the jambalaya. When I made this for Recipe Club, I diced everything super fine. And then when I cooked it, it kind of, I don't know, it might have cooked, so I might do it a little thicker than I did for Recipe Club so that it doesn't like disappear when it gets cut. Well, here it comes. I made it through the whole onion, which is good. I actually made it through the whole onion, surprisingly, before the waterworks. Oh, God. all of this stuff, so I put the onions aside because those go in separate. All this stuff goes in together so you can sort of keep it all together. The jalapenos, I don't know, if you want to leave the seeds in, you can leave the seeds in and it makes it spicier. It's up to you. Feel like I completely took the seeds out when I made it for Recipe Club. But I felt like it could have been a little spicier and it would have been fine. But all this stuff can go together because it's all going to get added together. But the onions you want to keep separate because those are going to go in. Those are the first of the veggies to go in. And you definitely want to do all this before you actually start the cooking. And you'll see why later, but once you start the cooking, even though it takes time and patience, you don't really want to be like cutting or doing other things while the cooking, once the cooking started, you're actually starting to cook the jambalaya. Because if you do sort of walk away or one of the steps, it overcooks or burns, it ruins the whole thing. And so, so it's good to get this all sort of done ahead of time. All right, the last thing that we have to chop before we start the cooking is our andouille sausage. All right, now, last but not least, we're gonna dice up the andouille, and this will be kept separate too. All right, we've got like 35 minutes left on this stock. We're just gonna let it do its thing, and then we'll come back in a little bit and keep going. So the stock is pretty much done. We've got the andouille sausage chopped. So I think we're ready for the real cooking. All right, let's see. I think I'm gonna strain this first. All right. This. So there's supposed to be 6 cups left. I'm not going to measure it. I think
of stock.
Of stock, yeah. There should be 6 cups. All right. We're going to bring our pot over here. You don't need a ton of oil in this because the sausage is going to release its fat. And I'm going to add the garlic to this vegetable mixture because it's all going out at the same time. And then you don't really need to shred the chicken. You want to sort of break down the big clumps. We'll get another chance to break it down once we add it into the pot. All right, so we're going to let this sear. You don't really want to mess with it too much, because you want it to get nice and brown on the bottom of the pan, which is really my favorite part of this recipe, is that we're gonna cook off the sausage, take the sausage out, and then start cooking the vegetables. But each ingredient that you add it in, you let it sit, you give it time to brown, and then you use the stock to deglaze. And we're gonna do that like over and over and over again, developing all the flavor from each ingredient. And I find it insanely satisfying. So here we're letting the sausage brown, and we want it to stick to the bottom of the pan. But you don't wanna burn it, so you have to sort of You want to keep an eye. So there's that perfect sweet spot where it's like brown and stuck to the pan, but not burnt. So we're almost there. Start seeing some of the browning. It's also why I love using a Dutch oven for this with the white bottom. So you really can see like the browning, on the sides. You really can sort of, like right there, like look at that. That's what you want. Because then when we stick the stock in, it's going to take all that browning off the edges and add it into the dish, which is basically what you want from each ingredient that we've chopped up. We're almost getting there. You can see the meat's browning. You got your brown on the bottom, so it's starting to look pretty good. So now we're going to do the first of many deglazes, which is my absolute favorite part of this. All right, so we're going to add the stuff. And we're going to stir it around. Look at this. So I'm going to turn this down a little bit. You want to be like medium high. All right. And now we're going to scoop out the sausage and save it for later. And I'm going to do this before the bottom gets too cooked and burned. Oh yeah. This is looking real good. 2 tablespoons of butter. And then I'm gonna add the onions. And the water from the onions that the onions release should be enough to, I'll turn this down a little bit because we are getting close to, it's definitely you want to make sure we scrape up all this stuff from the edges because we don't want that to burn. That's the most important thing. And I thought we might have to add some stock just to make, but it looks like the onions because the onions release some water when you stick it in. It's enough to sort of, but you want to make sure before you let it sit, because we are going to let this sit. And like, you want to cook the onions super slow. And so in the recipe, it says you want to cook the onions for 10 minutes. So it does, require some bit of patience. I feel like we've gotten that good and scraped up for now. And now we can sort of let that sit and cook. We're going to give this 5 minutes to sort of cook and get stuck to the bottom of the pan, just like we did with the sausage. And then we're going to add a little bit more of our stock. And we're going to get in here, and you see all that on the side. You want to make sure both for flavor and so it doesn't burn. Because if you get, that brown will start to turn into black if you don't use the liquid to really scrape up all the... All right, we're rolling now. All right, so we got one more deglaze on the onions, which I feel like we can do it. I mean, we could let it go longer, but we're gonna do 2 scoops for this one. Then we're gonna let that sit until all the liquid boils off. In the cookbook, it says, let it reduce until the skillet is dry, or au sec, as they say in French kitchens. I feel like every time I talk, there's someone being like, will you shut up? I'm trying to listen to the onions cook. We're looking pretty good here. We'll go ahead and put this in first. I'm just gonna mix it around. I don't think we're in any danger of this too much. And then 2 teaspoons of salt. Get our bay leaves. 1, 2, 3, all right, 5. And then 2 teaspoons of oregano. And let's mix that around. And then tomato paste and spice mix. So the spice mix is Donnie's spice mix, which is basically a recipe in this cookbook. It's kind of like the mother spice of all of Donald Link's cooking. So it's a combination of salt, pepper, cayenne, what else am I forgetting? Paprika, and chili powder. And so the recipe calls you make a big make a big thing of it. And I think we only use a tablespoon in this recipe, but we made a little in advance. Garlic powder, did I mention garlic powder? There's garlic powder in there too. Yeah. 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, which I think I'm gonna put, I don't know if you need to or not, but I'm gonna put it right onto the cooked oil. All right, I think we're fine. All right, now I think we're gonna let this cook for a few minutes and stick to the pan before we start deglazing again. I mean, we're not at 10 minutes, but we definitely want to, like you see this, you want to keep an eye on this because this can quickly burn. So see if I can scrape up a little with just the moisture of the stuff in here, but if it starts to look like it's going to burn, we'll just go ahead and add a little bit of the stock. It's a little early, but did not make it to the 10 minutes, but I feel like we got some good caramelization there. And so I feel like I was impatient, I admit. I feel like we could have pushed it a little longer. We probably could have let it do its thing until it looked like that in more parts of the pan, but all right. I think we're ready for our chicken. All right, I'm gonna add the chicken. And we're gonna get that mixed up in there. And now you see why we did not need a Dave Chang, Chris Ying roasted chicken, because all that juiciness and perfect skin and flavor of the perfect roast chicken would now be completely covered in everything else we've been doing. And so it really doesn't matter. Oh yeah, this is nice. So, I think it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good anyway. All right. And a little bit extra. And stir this around. Let this cook until it gets dry. And maybe sticks on the pan just a little bit. it says to let it reduce by half, and then it actually says in the recipe, so I didn't realize this, but it actually says in the recipe that we were supposed to do all of this in a cast iron skillet, which I can understand. I've never done it that way. I just realized it, because it says at this point, once you're ready to add the rice, you're supposed to transfer this mixture into I think it says heavy bottom, but yeah, pot or something. So, I mean, if you really want to use your, what did I say? Cast iron, right. If you really want to use your cast iron to cook all this stuff and get all, but I really like this. And then I just leave it in here, add the rice, and I feel like, I don't know if it would make a difference, but this is the way I've always done it, and it's always turned out really good. And I like the idea of cooking the whole thing in one pot, never losing any of the flavor. All right, so we're almost ready to go here. We're supposed to cook this until most of the liquid is gone. I just realized the recipe doesn't say to add the sausage at any point. I think it's a mistake in the cookbook that they forgot. So you can add it with the chicken. I feel like usually I'll add it with the chicken, but you can also add it now, right before the rice. So we put our sausage back in, mix that in. Oh, we'll get all the juices and you want all that, the flavor and the grease. And once you add all the rice and everything, it's just extra flavor. And then actually, I'm gonna measure out, let's see how much stock we're left with, because we're supposed to add the rice and then 4 cups of stock. So let's see how we did. This is 4 cups, so let's, guy, oh, come on now. Wow, look at that. I mean, I am pretty happy about this. Like, I mean, it almost seems like I know what I'm doing. All right, so let's add the rice. We actually, I rinsed the rice earlier. It says rinsed rice. I don't know how that really affects the finished product. I rinsed it. All right, so we got our rice. I think it was 2.5 cups. And then we got our 4 cups of stock. Put it in there. All right. Oh yeah. Man. And then I'm gonna turn the heat up because we're gonna want to make sure, although I don't feel like this stock was hot enough, it won't take too much time to bring it up to a simmer. All right, I think we're good. So I'm gonna cover this up, and then I'm gonna put it on medium, and then we're gonna let it cook for 40 minutes, and we'll be back to finish up. So we've been letting this simmer for 40 minutes, and then we turned it off, let it sit for 10. I mean, I feel like 40 minutes is a long time for long grain rice to cook. I feel like on the packages, it's usually 15, 20 minutes, and so it's definitely cooked. I don't know what the 10-minute resting time is, or why, whether or not you have to cook it that long, but I've always cooked it the way the recipe has said to cook it. And so I think we're ready for the big reveal. All right, reveal is this. All right. Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Oh, this smells so good. And then I'm gonna fluff it up, get everything, and I'll pull the bay leaves out because as I see them, because obviously you don't want people eating those. I am very excited for this. So the recipe says to actually take it out of out of the Dutch oven, and put it in in like a serving pan, like like an aluminum disposable pan, which, for a potluck, or obviously if you go to a party in New Orleans that has jambalaya, that is typically where, you will see it like in a pan like that. And it also says if you leave it in here, it will cook, it'll overcook, it'll cook too much. But I love ooh, look at that. It actually got nice and brown on the bottom, those crispy bits. I've actually never had that happen. Those crispy bits are gonna be good. And so I like leaving it in the pot. I feel like just taking this to a potluck in your Dutch oven is just a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I don't know. Does it overcook? I don't really know. I feel like, room temperature jambalaya is just as good as hot jambalaya. And so I feel like you can take this. I do leave the lid off until it cools down. I feel like we're ready to go. I'm ready to taste this. Chicken, sausage. I'm excited for this. Oh yeah. Oh, it's weird to have it so hot. I've never had like a bowl of this like super hot. Oh yeah, that's good. And it's got like such good heat. Probably could use a little more salt, but like, oh man, that is so good. Oh my God. All right, I think that's it. We did it. Thank you so much for watching. Do I need to say to come and see me at Smorgasburg on Sunday? I feel like if you've lasted this long, you know who I am and that you can come here every Sunday from 10 to 4 and enjoy Smorgasburg in Los Angeles. Thank you, Donald Link. I love you. Love this recipe. And thank you guys for watching. See you next time.